Hello, everybody, and welcome to Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. I'd like to welcome Haley, who is an adoptee, who's going to share a little bit about her story. So, welcome, Haley.
Good morning.
Haley, so why don't you share with us a little bit about your experience of finding out that you were adopted? How old are you right now? When did you find out? And just sharing a little bit of your perspective.
Okay, so I am 26 right now, and I believe I found out when I was 24, about like 2 summers ago. So I guess how I found out, I was actually just going through our little library at home, and my parents, they keep everything, and I was looking for an essay from either like high school or middle school. When I was looking through it, I saw an adoptions folder. But I had seen this folder before. I had actually asked my mom about it when I was like in third grade, but at that time I also didn't really like to read. So I didn't ever open the folder, but I had ran down to her because she was in the kitchen when I had seen it in third grade and was like, "Am I adopted?" And she was like, "No, like we were thinking about adopting, but then you came along." And so I was like, okay, like that checks. I also look like my parents. Before I had seen that folder, there was nothing that made me think, oh, this could be a possibility. It was simply because it existed. Fast forward, when I'm looking through all of my stuff when I'm 24, I'm like, wait, it is kind of weird that they still have this. Like, even though they tend to keep bunch of stuff, why did they keep this? So then when I opened it, I immediately saw that like it wasn't like a birth certificate, but it was something basically from the hospital that had my name on it and like all of this paperwork. And I was like, why is my birth date on this paper? And it was basically just showing that I was adopted. And so then when I had found it, I had a moment to like kind of process it because I just like bursted out crying. But it wasn't necessarily sad tears, it was just in shock. I was able to like process that on my own for maybe like 10 minutes. And then my mom actually had gotten home and I had asked her about it. She immediately was like, "What?" Basically, still trying to deny it. I do get emotional when I talk about it just because it's so crazy to me. So yeah, so she was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Mom, like I literally saw everything." And she was like, "Okay, well, I guess we should go downstairs and like talk to your dad about this." Then we had like a conversation about it. My parents, I already appreciate them so much and have wanted to be able to like give them back all that they have given me because I have lived a very privileged life. Basically, the whole experience and finding out, it just made me realize I appreciate them even more than I somehow thought was possible. Because when I was talking to my parents about it, she was just like, her father had passed before I was born. She was like, I always knew he was like up there just pulling strings. And she had actually had a miscarriage and then I tried a round of IVF, I think. She was just like, I'm not going through that again. And so she was having a conversation with her sister at the time. And she was like, then maybe you should just adopt. I'm sure there's somebody out there who needs you so much and like you don't even know. She had said that when they had that conversation, I guess she had began the process pretty soon after that. And so my mom, whenever I guess she was older and just kind of realizing like the similarities that we had, she put it together that when her and my aunt would have had that conversation would have been around the time that I would have been like conceived. So it's just all of these like really weird coincidences. So it just makes me really happy to have them.
Did your parents share with you maybe why they hadn't chosen to talk about your adoption sooner?
Yeah, so when I was younger, like they were just really worried about how I would take it or adding it on to what I would have already been kind of going through in life. It definitely became a thing of, well, now we can't tell her, or like these little tiny excuses. Also, one of the things that did actually upset me the most was when they were talking to me about it, they just kept saying like, we didn't want you to hate us. And that made me so upset. They couldn't do anything to make me hate them. And I could really tell that was weighing on them the most. They were just so not prepared for all the possibilities of what could happen if they did tell me, and me just like losing all faith in them. And I think that as time went on, after maybe I was like 14, that they were just eating themselves up with that, because my dad also said he started having nightmares of these crazy scenarios of like him having to go to the hospital and then needing to know like what type of blood type, and then me figuring out that like it wouldn't be possible or whatever. Just stuff like that. The week before I had found out, my brother had actually called and was like, did you ever tell Haley? Because also I have 2 older siblings, and they would have been like very involved in the whole process. They were really happy that they were finally able to discuss it.
Yeah, and I will share with you, Haley, that adoption has definitely evolved. I think over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, many adoption agencies have become more open in the sense of education, and birth parents choosing adoption because they want to have an open relationship. And I fully respect, why your parents chose the route that they chose. Some of the struggles that it sounds like your parents were going through, those are things we try to address now early on when we have folks coming into our program looking to adopt, to try to help educate them on ways to talk to their child about their adoption story, because it can be very overwhelming and scary of like, do I say something? When do I say something? Those are things we do try to talk about earlier on now to try to help with some of that.
So I will say, because I remember you saying before when I had asked about it, that was kind of, it took you back a bit, because I was saying that I had just found out. But I honestly really appreciate the way that I found out, because one, it kind of allowed me to not necessarily grieve, but just process the information on my own. I know, because like I kind of just broke down and started bawling, because I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I really appreciated being able to have that moment by myself and not in front of my parents, because I mean, crying, like you assume sadness, and it wasn't sad, it was just mere shock. Being able to kind of process it and then have a discussion with them was a lot better. And then also, I take my parents' side and just like, I don't know how I would have processed it. And you can't really go back into the past to like redo something. But I do know that just being older and being able to process it, because I've like looked online too a lot about, I was honestly kind of like worried myself when I found out it like everything just went back to normal. Like it was just like a discussion, and then I was like, okay, so like what are we having for dinner? And I was like, am I supposed, like I was looking up how people's normal reactions were. People were really having struggles. I think maybe because I found out later in life, like I'm already solidified in the person that I am. I had already gone through college, like they had provided so much, so finding out this information did not change anything about me. It didn't make me question anything. And it just seems like when I was seeing everything online, and I'm assuming that everyone was told earlier, that it made them have a lot of identity crisis, which I have not experienced.
Well, and again, no 2 situations are ever the same. And I think that's why we have platforms like AFTHtv where folks can come on and share their own experience, their own perspective. And it sounds like for you, you actually appreciated not finding out until you were in your early 20s, because it allowed you to kind of reflect, digest the information, and be able to grieve in the way that worked for you, and you took it in a really good way. And that may not be true for all, right? That may not be true for others, and that's okay too. But I appreciate you sharing this so that folks can just understand a different way, you know? Can I ask you, because I know a lot of folks will probably be thinking about this when they hear your story, have you had any curiosity of wanting to understand about your birth parents, or reasons why they chose adoption? Have you had any inkling to want to search or anything like that?
Ever since I was young, probably in like ninth grade, I always told my mom that I wanted to adopt. So hearing that I was adopted and just imagining putting myself in her shoes, I was like, I'm so glad that she was able to make that decision for herself. But it takes so much, in my opinion, so much more strength to be able to say, like, I know I cannot take care of this child in the way that I want to. The most like unselfish thing a person can do, as opposed to keeping a baby, knowing that you can't provide the lifestyle that you would want for them just because like that's the thing to do, or that's what like society says. So I really applaud her being able, and at such a young age, being able to make that decision. I think probably sometime in the future, because I don't know if I would necessarily want a relationship with her, just because it is so much later in my life that I don't really feel the need to. If I did, like, it would probably be very surface level.
The part that I wanted to add kind of had to deal with in the future of me wanting to meet them. Once I found out, I eventually like looked up their names and stuff just to see like what they looked like. And so I found them on Facebook. I also found out that they had a daughter. It seems like from their decision and like being able to do that, they were able to like get their lives back on track, because it seems like their family like goes on vacations, and like that also kind of is why I'm not like super pressed about meeting them, just because it can be a lot for just, I wouldn't say like a lot for me to handle, but like considering I just found this out, I can imagine also now adding that to like someone who's 18. Like that's a lot to process, because I'm sure like there's like a good chance that she doesn't know that she has a sibling, and like she's an only child too. I don't know if I would like want to disturb whatever they have either. That's why I'm more okay with also just reaching out to maybe like the mom, saying my like thanks and stuff, and keeping it kind of surface level.
But I would want to reach out just to say thank you to her and let her know that like everything is going well.
Well, and again, Haley, we appreciate your honesty and just your feelings on all of this. And obviously, some of this could change too down the road. But I think it's important that people realize that not every adoptee is gonna feel exactly the same way as the next, right? And
Mhm.
like you've come full circle with this, and you're really happy with your life and your parents. And even though finding out this information may have been a little shocking, it actually
Mhm.
reconfirmed for you the love that you have for your parents and all that they've done for you. And, I think that that's really nice to hear. I just wanted to offer you a space if there's anything else you want people to know or something you want to share. Please feel free to give that.
I'm just really happy that my parents were able to have, I guess, this organization to go through and that it worked out so well.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think it is helpful when people are looking to build their family through adoption to work with people who know what they're doing, because it is a very layered process, and making sure you have people who have experience and can provide the counseling and the support before, during, and after is really significant. As I mentioned earlier, nowadays the education that prospective adoptive parents receive is so crucial. Regardless of the outcome or how people feel, it's good to have the knowledge given to you of just the different members of the triad and experiences and things, because it allows you to become a more well-rounded parent going through this process. Education and preparation, very important here at Adoptions from the Heart. And we want to make sure that everybody is ready to go to become the best parent that they can be to their little ones. So appreciate you saying that. Well, guys, we want to thank you for tuning in. Again, it's always helpful to hear from voices of folks who have been through it. We're happy that Haley has come full circle with her story, and she's really been able to know that her parents made the right choice. She feels like she's in the right spot. Down the road, she may open up and decide to try to connect to her birth parent, but if not, she's going to be okay. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in the future. Hey guys, if you are enjoying the content here at AFTHtv, please subscribe and hit the bell.